Today we shall talk about 12 things I liked in Loki episode 1. Number 1. An excellent opening. There was a peculiar thing I noticed in the opening. As the episode started, the audio came first and then came the video. There was a gap of almost a second or so. Hardcore fans of the MCU would have recognized instantly that the music was of Avengers Endgame. This slight delay creates a mini anticipation in the brain of the viewer, and the impact when the video comes in is much heightened. Right from the start, we are thrust into the action. The series wastes no time in introduction of characters or setting. This is the benefit of having an interconnected universe. A universe that was created with painstaking efforts, with particular focus on characters and themes. That's why the audience can be thrust into such an action and we know where we are. That was a good choice by the showrunners, because 90% of the viewers are now familiar with the entire landscape of the MCU. One thing I noticed in Avengers Endgame scenes is that they used different camera angles for showing the same scenes that were shown in Avengers Endgame. This makes us subtly feel that we are watching new information, even if we have seen everything point by point in Avengers Endgame. Number 2. A tonal surprise. For all the trailers I had watched of Loki, I thought this was going to be a fun, easygoing series, where Loki will be on to his shenanigans and TVA will try to control him. But as soon as I heard the ominous music that came on with the Marvel title card, it made me recalibrate my expectations. And I rightly found out that this is not a fun, easygoing series. It is a serious exploration of deep themes and character growth, with tiny amounts of humor thrown here and there. Number 3. Loki, the God of Mongolia. So we see the events play out exactly as they did in Endgame. Loki escapes with the Tesseract and lands in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. This is not the Loki of Dark World, this is not the Loki of Ragnarok. This guy is still an antagonist and full of pride and kind of asshole. He is petty, wants to be a god and wants subjects. So this scene in Mongolia was quite a nice introduction to that character of Loki. So instantly as he lands in that place, he wants to be a god. Even if he has only 3 subjects, he wants to be worshipped, he wants to be adored, he wants to be loved by his subjects. So this was a nice scene that introduced us to the original character of Loki. Number 4. TVA, the perfect setting for Loki. Now the TVA is introduced as a bureaucracy. It protects the sacred timeline. So in essence, TVA controls what goes on, when and what happens. And if it doesn't happen that way, they correct it. According to them, everything is set in stone. This is the perfect setting for Loki, who is exactly the antithesis of this. Loki is chaotic, Loki believes in free will, Loki wants to prove himself with his own might. TVA, on the other hand, is ordered and is based on systems. Loki wants to prove his superiority, whereas TVA is a homogenized place with no free will. Loki is colorful, whereas TVA has no soul. This is a perfect setup for proper conflict between the protagonist and the antagonist. It leads to a good connection between the heroes and the villains, which leads to good conflicts. The antagonist and the protagonist are exactly the opposite faces of the same coin. This is how you do an antagonist. If you want to see how not to do an antagonist, I have a video link right here. Number 5. TVA, the soul-crushing bureaucracy. The show did an excellent job of detailing every aspect of TVA, that is a soul-crushing bureaucracy. Every person in this place is devoid of any passion, soul or life, barring a few people who are in power. These desk jockeys don't care about their job and they just act like drones. There was a fun robot gag. An employee inquires Loki if he has a soul and if he is not a robot according to his knowledge. Loki is confused. What if he is a robot? And the employee tells him that if he is a robot, he would melt if he goes through that arch. Immediately tells him that just move along. So if he was a robot, he would have died there. That's how little these people are concerned about their job. There was also a gag of tickets or coupons. Even if there were only 2 people in the line, it just showed that these people are following rules without even knowing what those rules are for. So it was a nice description of a bureaucracy where employees have no incentive to do a good job. Number 6. The concept of multiversal war. In the TV cartoon that was showed in TVA, introduced the concept of multiversal war. It means that different timelines were competing with each other to become the prime timeline. If this is actually true, it opens up so many avenues of different storylines that we can explore in the future. However, I'm skeptical if this is actually real. The setting that is described to us already makes us question the reality of things. There is a slight possibility that the entire TVA is running on autopilot, that the TVA system was created for a purpose, and that purpose has been fulfilled a long time ago. That people in the TVA are following rules without any real reason. But I'm excited to see where this leads next. Maybe there will be a connection to Kang the Conqueror. He definitely is coming in the next Ant-Man movie. Maybe we will get a preview in this episode. Number 7. the tradition of Loki getting hurt. There is something fun in watching Loki get hurt or humiliated by other heroes. In Avengers 1 it was the Hulk, in Ragnarok it was Doctor Strange, and now it is TVA. And I'm glad the showrunners picked up on this pattern. The conflict between Loki's exaggerated ego and unknown or more powerful things is always enjoyable to watch. Most of the credit goes to the actor, Tom Hiddleston, who is so good in this role that he can play it in his sleep by now. Number 8. Mobius, the perfect partner. The pairing of Mobius and Loki gives off a feeling that is similar to buddy cop movies of the 80s, like Lethal Weapon. By the way, Lethal Weapon is a great movie that you should watch. In those buddy cop movies, two different cops of different personalities are forced to work together, but by the end, they are best friends. One cop is young and brash, whereas the other cop is old and more conservative. Both the cops are hyper-masculine and stubborn. That is what makes the movie so fun to watch. In Loki, however, there is a slight twist. Mobius is the older cop, but he is neither conservative nor aggressive. By the way, aggression has never worked against Loki. Aggression against him just makes him regress even more into his negative aspects. Instead, Mobius is a smarter, wiser man. He uses words with Loki and makes him confront his demons. Because of his casual demeanor and long experience, Mobius is quite immune to Loki's taunts and verbal attacks. So he uses these tactics for the benefit of both. Slowly and surely, Loki does open up. It was great to see a cerebral character who challenges Loki on an intellectual level. Number 9. The D.B. Cooper twist. So it is shown that D.B. Cooper was actually Loki. D.B. Cooper was a real person in the United States who jumped from a plane with a boatloads of money, and many people tried to find him but could not. To this day, it is a mystery who D.B. Cooper was and where he went. A year ago, I went deep down the rabbit hole searching for this entire mystery on the internet. So that was a fun twist, revealing that Loki is actually D.B. Cooper. If people are interested in the real mystery, I'll link a video down in the description. Number 10. Increasing the stakes. There would be nothing in this world like the Infinity Saga for a long time. What was achieved in that entire period is magnificent, and I don't think it will be ever replicated to this degree. The stakes were as high as they could be. The characters were developed to the fullest over many movies. So were the themes. Infinity War and Endgame were the perfect ending to this 10-year-long saga. Now the dilemma of the MCU was if Infinity Stones are the greatest threats the universe can face, and an entire saga already exists to the exploration of their powers and abilities, where to move from here? This series cleverly ups the game by showing that even Infinity Stones are mere paperweights to the TVA. It shows there are places and individuals and organizations that are much more powerful even than the Infinity Stones. This enables the MCU to move forward in such a way that the stakes are even higher than the Infinity Saga. Number 11. Therapy time. Now, as we have discussed, this Loki is not the Loki we have seen grow up and develop throughout the Infinity Saga. This is the villain of the Avengers 2012. Now this series wants him to become a protagonist. How does one do that? The show does this by making him confront his ideals, take his flaws and perceived strengths, and bring them out in the open. Make Loki face a mirror to himself, question his drive. This is done by making him sit in mandated therapy. If we had to paint with a broad brush, Loki is like a brash teenager. He is petulant, he is stubborn, has a warped sense of superiority over other beings, has lots of insecurity regarding to his fellow people, and is driven by emotions. Mobius is like a wise old owl who does not use aggression, but just simple words. Because in the end, Loki just wants to be understood. Mobius understands this and makes Loki confront his wants, needs and desires. This makes Loki uncomfortable, but slowly and surely he embraces this, and the growth in his character is triggered. Confronting their own flaws is the first step of a character towards his growth. This detour in his life frees Loki from his rigid path, the path that he had always taken and failed. This conflict with TVA breaks Loki's ideologies and his way of thinking. Number 12. Glorious purpose. After watching his past, present and future, Loki's preconceptions are dismantled. So first time in his life, he is truly seeing the consequences of his actions and is free to choose from here on what he will be in the future. That's basically the gist of the series. Free will versus determinism. Loki has to find in himself to change the mold of an antagonist that he has found himself into and become a protagonist by defying the will of the TVA. Here the TVA, that is the antagonist, preaches rigid adherence to the one timeline. Loki has to prove by his own example that he can change from an antagonist the protagonist. If he chooses to be his old self, that is an antagonist, then the TVA wins. The theme of the series itself is embedded inside Loki's choices, whether he chooses to be the antagonist that he always was or changes and becomes a protagonist. This should be the goal of implementing the themes of a series. The choices the characters make in the series should reflect the overall theme of the series. If they carry on with this theme properly and implement it in each episode, they would have pulled off a perfect series. Now that Loki has seen his life in perspective, including the future, he understands what his original ideologies lead to. This has obliterated what he thought the world was and what he thought he himself was. What it leads to: his mother, father, both dead because of him in some way or another. So his entire perception of what is right and what is wrong is obliterated. For the first time in his life, he is free to choose what he wants to become. This is the core crux of the first episode. It is of glorious purpose, and Loki is free to choose it. So that was my video on 12 things I liked in Loki episode 1. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.